What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Weekend Review. My name is Splattercat, and I'm adjusting a microphone right now so that we can properly start the episode. I'm happy to see you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Our Sunday series where we hang out and we talk about basically, nothing for the next, 25 minutes. Save yourself. Flee now. No. We're just going to talk about stuff going on around the channel, how I feel about the various series that we're running, things that are coming up in the future, things that are happening in the world, things that I just want to talk about, essentially. We just kind of, gab about just about anything, to be fair. If it comes up, it's fair game around here. Has anybody actually, never mind, not going to go. I was going to say, has anybody actually used the phrase, that's unfair game? No, that is unfair game. That deer is clearly out of limits. Anyways, we'll start off with our weekly review series by talking about the fact that we're playing This War of Mine. So that's what we're going to start out with right now. You'll forgive me if I seem a little addle-brained right now. I just got back from dinner. Went out. It's been my day off. I seriously slept all day today, and then I've just been vegging out playing Fantasy Life on my 3DS. Seriously, that's all that I've done today. And then I topped it off. I went and I bought Bravely Default after that because I haven't played a game in a while. I haven't played a Japanese RPG in a while, so I figured I'd break one open. It got pretty good review scores, so I'm going to see what happens with that. But This War of Mine should be done this week. I think there's only 4 episodes left of This War of Mine. I start to dick around a little bit too much at the end of the series, though, so there's going to be some unintended consequences to some of the things that happen in the future. You want to pay attention to that series if you are interested in weird twists and turns. I just start messing around because we have 50 food and 50, we have a million guns, 50 bullets, 50 food, a ton of medication. We've basically beaten the game after day 17. And so essentially there's nothing really to do, so I just start fiddling around with stuff and getting myself into trouble. It turns into a pretty good time. I still like This War of Mine, but I'm ready to see it go. I think the second season was probably a mistake on my part, to be fair. It just hasn't had the interaction that I was hoping it would have. People are still watching it, but I don't know, people really, really, really wanted a second season, so I figured I would do one. But honestly, after you've beaten the game the first time, there's really no point playing it again, because once you figure out what all the events are, you basically memorize what you're supposed to do, and then after that, every playthrough is cumulatively easier and easier and easier. You can make it a little bit more difficult by choosing some of the pre-made groups that are a tad harder, but really, even those, it took me a couple tries to get the one that starts in winter down, but once you figure that out, you can do it every single time, too. It's just there's a specific series of events you have to do when you start in winter. Otherwise, you'll mess it up, and people will die and freeze to death and have their toes fall off and be like, oh my god, what's that on the floor? And then it'll be thunk, 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 and be like, oh my god, that's my toe. We can use it as a hockey puck now. Hooray! I used to play hockey when I was a kid. I played right wing. Anyways, Dead State. Still pretty stoked about Dead State. We get hit with a lot of bugs, though, in the next couple episodes. We had episode 33 and 34. I think we get a lot of bugs. And then after that, it seems to fix itself. I would ask people, not to post spoilers about Dead State. I've had problems with that lately, where everybody keeps posting spoilers down below. If you can, properly, tag it. I realize people are going to troll me after I bring this up. But if you could, tag it as spoilers in there, I would appreciate it, because I actually don't know what's coming in the future in Dead State. And I kind of like the fact that it springs random stuff on me, and I don't really know how to react to it. Dead State, I think I've got that recorded not too far out. Let me take a look right now. We did episode 33 today. That means that I've got Dead State recorded out to 36, so a couple more days worth. I'm actually taking the weekend off. I haven't taken a day off since, I guess, New Year's Eve, I guess. And then I worked on New Year's Day, I think. So I decided I was going to take a couple days off and just recharge, because lately, after I did the Grav series, I realized just how tired I am lately. I've been pulling what basically happened is, in the holiday season, I used up all of my backlog, taking days off so I could hang out with family and friends and, visit with people and make sure that I was attending to my family properly, because those sorts of things are, very, very important. Definitely, missing holidays and stuff is it's not going to please people, especially if they live, right down the street from you. So anyways, I was trying to take care of family business, which is always really, really important, and I ended up using up all my backlog, so I've been working, non-stop, every single day. And I noticed the other day when I was doing Grav, I just feel burned out and tired. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a couple days off before this, gets out of control, and I get to the point where I'm just and I sit there with my face on my desk getting big red circles on my forehead from frustration. There's been a couple of issues. Yeah, This War of Mine, I messed up the sound on it this week, and I was really disappointed with myself, and then after that, I messed up an episode of something. Anyways, lots of stuff going wrong right now because I'm just not paying attention properly, and I keep messing stuff up. It happens. But anyways, Dead State, still like Dead State, actually. I look forward to my recording days with Dead State. I really, really do. I get excited when it's Dead State Day. I'm like, yes! It's time for our state to be set to equal dead, semicolon. And so I get excited about it. I get very, very excited about Dead State. As of right now, I actually feel like the game is just now getting interesting, but considering we're actually 15 hours into the game right now, so we do 30-minute episodes with Dead State, and we're on episode 33. It's only just now getting interesting. I think the game has pacing issues. I think the beginning of the game is unnecessarily just like calm with nothing good happening. And then it seems like you hit a point when you're about 10 hours in where everything just starts to like roll downhill like a dung beetle's dinner. So anyways, Warhammer Quest. I like Warhammer Quest, but it's probably going to be a short series. I don't think I'm going to beat Warhammer Quest just because the breadth of the game is just like too large. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again too. So I figure that like you fight the same 5 bosses, you do the same 5 things, and basically you hope better loot drops each time. It's good for a phone game, but for a full-length LP, I'll probably let Warhammer Quest go sometime this week. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming up this week, and I just clicked off I clicked off the list thing that I wanted. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff coming out in the next 2 weeks. Namely, we have a lot of zombie action in the future. Like, our channel is going to be overtaken by zombies over the next week or two because we've got H1Z1, which I never got a press copy of, so it'll be brand new to me, and hopefully we'll have a good time playing it. We'll see if the game is more War Z or DayZ, which side it leans to. But I'm excited about H1Z1. I did talk to SOE about it because I've been a faithful follower of SOE since the EverQuest days. And even though they aren't known for their customer service or particularly like caring about their fan base at all, I still have faith in SOE, and for some reason, I don't know. I call it naivety, I guess, but I like SOE. And so I've been waiting around for it. They got contact. I contacted them and I was like, I want to play H1Z1 just like everybody else on the internet. Can I? And they were like, we're keeping a very exclusive list. Basically, I didn't have the proper black tie. I was like, oh man, I was dressed improperly. Then again, I'll show up at a steakhouse in like my pajamas and just be like, feed me. So anyways, but yeah, H1Z1, they kept a very, very exclusive list of people that were allowed to like have the game in pre-release. And since it's a AAA company, it's hit or miss with AAA companies. They tend to like give copies out to like 1 million plus channels. Very rarely do they give like stuff out to channels my size, so it's okay. But I am looking forward to playing it. We are going to do an H1Z1 series. It's going to be pretty awesome. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of survival games coming up too. But anyways, before I get ahead of myself, Warhammer Quest, I think we're up to like episode 6 or so right now, and I just got a bout of hiccups. I don't know where they came from, but oh my god, so many hiccups coming through right now, and I've just got to like power through. I found that if I just mash my way through and I just keep talking, it tends to fix it. And so anyways, with Warhammer Quest, I think I've recorded like 10 episodes of it, and then we're on, yeah, okay. So Warhammer Quest, there's 3 or 4 more episodes left before I've got to, you know, figure out where I wanted to end the series at, but I'm actually pretty happy with what we have recorded. I may just cut like 1 or 2 more episodes and then just kind of like leave it where it is, because it's like, it's one of those games where there's no storyline. So basically you go to each town and there's like one storyline quest in each town that you mash out real quick, and then everything else is just randomly generated. And so I would rather make room because we've got Stranded Deep, we've got H1Z1, we've got so many zombie games coming out like in the next 2 weeks that I would like to cover all of them and actually do full playthroughs of, that I sort of scheduled myself a little bit too thin right now, I think, is the other problem I got into. Let's see here. So yeah, we've got, oh, let me get my little list. I have a list of games that I keep an eye on here. So we got H1Z1, which comes out on the 15th. We'll be playing that, so that's this week. We've got, what else do we have here? We have Stranded Deep on the 23rd, so obviously we'll be playing that because survival games are sort of like the thing that I do on the channel. After that, we've got Raven's Cry and Dying Light. So you can see in a period of like 2 weeks, there's so many games coming out, and like I want to do a full series on all of them, so we'll kind of just see what happens. And then Darkest Dungeon comes out after that. It's just like, so tired right now, but then I looked at the release list and I was like, oh my god, there's so many games. I'm going to cover them all. Like a large Splattercat flavored blanket. That sounds kind of disgusting. I don't know why a blanket would have my flavors on it. That seems markedly unpleasant. Anyways, Neo Scavenger. Neo Scavenger also probably coming to a close very, very soon. I would have liked to have beat the game, but there's just so many things that go into it. Like, I know how to beat Neo Scavenger. Like, I know how to beat it. Like, I 100% can beat Neo Scavenger if I want to. It's just kind of like one of those things where you've got to go to ZomZoms, get the orange box. Sometimes it bugs out and you don't get the orange box. Then you got to make the foil suit. You get the job from Hatter. You go back with hacking skill. You use the foil suit to get inside Camp Grayling. You can beat the game really, really quickly. Like, I know how to beat Neo Scavenger, but things don't quite go the way that I want to with our current playthrough. Things go a little bit awry. You'll all see in the next week or so. And then I don't know. I think Neo Scavenger is probably drawing to a close in the next like 10 episodes or so. I find myself on Neo Scavenger days being like, all right, well, we've talked about this, we've done this, I can go over here and I can do this. There are still locations that we haven't done, and so I would like to do those. But like I said, we're kind of in a weird spot right now where I have a bunch of series that are about to like conclude from where we are. Even Grav, I recorded like 8 episodes of Grav, and then my save got deleted because they re-rolled the servers out for the new patches. And so that's probably where I'm just going to leave it until more content comes out. I really do like Grav, by the way. It's a really, really fun game, but we'll see what happens with it. We've got Dead State, which is going to be around for a little while. I've seen other people who have theirs on like episode 85 or something like that, and they do similar length episodes to what I do. Did not finish this week, which is very cool. Project Aura. I think I am going to finish up Project Aura right now because there's not enough content to play Project Aura. Like, they give you money and you can build a little city, but they don't give you enough money to actually get enough stuff set up to make more money. And so without the questing system, the technology system, and the research system in the game, I think I'm going to shelf Project Aura for a little bit. I showed people how to get their food construction built up, and that's a pretty good representation of the gameplay. I mean, that's what you're going to do for making plastics. That's what you're going to do for everything else, is just set up a chain, you know what I mean, and hope that you don't run out of money. But even with the game on easy, where you start with $50,000, it's easy to run out of money really, really early. And as of right now, it's difficult to be self-sufficient in that game with the quest system lacking. They're going to put in a quest system or a mission system later on where if you do certain things, they'll give you like a stipend of like $5,000 that'll like bail you out of the hole if you get yourself into trouble. And without that system there doesn't seem to be any concrete way in Project Aura to make a lot of money or to make enough money to build more stuff. It's going to cost you like bare minimum like 4,000 credits to build anything in that game. And it took me almost 2.5 hours with just my food production to make like $2,000, $3,000. It's definitely time consuming as it is right now without the mission system in place. And so I'm thinking that that's where the gap is lying in the whole thing right now. So obviously, Grav, we've got about 7 episodes of that coming out. It's very, very fun. We do PvP. We build a little base. We show off basically like the things that there are in the game. I build a couple guns. We go into some dungeons and look at some cooler stuff. But basically that was all recorded over the course of one day, and then my save got deleted right afterwards because they rolled all the servers into the new patch. So there you go. It's one of the fun things about the new survival games that are online is typically when they're early in their development, they roll over a lot. I don't get attached to anything. And in fact, that's what I said in the last episode. In the last episode, I said something along the lines of like, I fully expect them to delete all my stuff after I log out today. And they did. So I wasn't that bummed out about it. I felt like I got like my time with Grav appropriately allocated. Like I enjoyed the 3 or 4 hours of recording I got to do in Grav. And so this week we covered Dex on the Weekly Indie Newcomer. Dex is kind of an interesting game, isn't it? It's kind of an interesting game. I'm hoping that it ends up being very, very good. But as of right now, there's like gaps. There are just little immersion things missing. Like the game is good. I like the things that it has in play right now, but it's lacking a lot of the immersive elements. And so that's where I would say if the developer ever saw the video, that would be the critique that I would give, is that I know it's in early access. It's only been in development for 6 months. You have a good thing going right now. I would focus on immersive qualities because that's what it feels like it's lacking at the moment. Even at its early state, you can tell where the melee combat is going. You can tell where the gunplay is going. You can tell that the game is very much drawing from things like Flashback. You can see that it's drawing from things like Comic Zone and Shadowrun and a lot of those like 2D RPG type games that don't get made anymore. It's a very, very niche thing that used to get made all the time. There were lots of 2D RPGs back in the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo days, even in the early PlayStation days. Nowadays, 2D RPGs don't get made that often anymore, and that's kind of an interesting lapse in the gaming community. And so I'm hoping that the game turns out to be great later on down the road. I'm excited about it, and it's a game that I've got my eye on. I keep it on my wish list on Steam, just so I keep it on my little follow list so I can just watch it for updates and things when I log in. Very, very cool. I had fun with Grav this week. Grav is one of those survival games that jumped out and grabbed me, so I was grabbed by Grav, but nowhere that requires me to talk to a government agency. Everything was totally kosher and above the belt, but it touched me in a way that I think very, very few games do. Not in like an emotional sense, but it just grabbed onto me, and it was a game that I sat and I played for hours and hours and hours and had fun with it. I'll probably play it a lot in my free time too, once it gets developed a little bit further and you can go from planet to planet and do all kinds of cool stuff. I foresee good things in the future for Grav. I play a lot of survival games that are in early access, and rarely are they as put together as Grav is when they release to Steam. Usually they've got a lot more work to be done, like The Forest. Like there was nothing to do in The Forest when it first came out. It didn't save. You could only build like a couple things, and then after like 2 hours you were bored and done with it. Whereas Grav, you could sit, I found probably dozens of blueprints that I never got to build for all kinds of stuff for my base, like shield walls and all kinds of guns and rifles and elemental stuff and armor. There's all kinds of stuff in the game. It'll take you a long time to get through the content, even as it stands right now. So it's a pretty cool game. I would say it'd take you at least 2 days of playing non-stop to get like everything. Just from the one full day that I played, I felt like I found a lot of blueprints and I was starting to get repeats, but I was still getting new stuff like every other blueprint. So it's got a lot of stuff for you to conquer. It's a pretty cool little game. Project Aura, we're finishing up that, so I already talked about that. Grav will be finishing up this week, somewhere around the time that we start H1Z1. Dead Knot finished up this week. I'm probably not going to do a second series of Dead Knot. The reception for Dead Knot was very, very good. And so it's not like a decision made based on view counts or anything. It's just that Dead Knot is very, very prone to RNG. So, for example, with Dead Knot, you can get the first mission to be impossible multiple times in a row just based on the way that the enemy is allocated. And so, like, RNG can really, really plug you in Dead Knot. And so what happens with Dead Knot is I end up recording like 3 or 4 like half episodes that are just like me getting stomped out in the first dungeon and then being like, all right, because I like to show off successful playthroughs. I will show you a failed playthrough if we get to like, you know, the third mission or even like the late second mission. I'm okay with that. But if we barely get through the first mission and then we can't res anybody for the second mission, usually I'll just edit it out and be like, and I'll start over and I'll just re-record it, which can be a time-consuming process. And so with Dead Knot, I'm getting pretty good at the game as it stands right. I don't want to toot my own horn, but honk, honk. Anyways, Dead Knot, I'm getting pretty good at it to where I can beat it almost every time without RNG elements like intervening. There are some aliens that you can get in it that are very, very, very difficult no matter what weapons you have, no matter what you do. And when that happens, you have to have a very specific set of things drop for you. So if you don't get the right blueprints when you're going up against, the ones that I give it as an example are the fungal aliens. So there's one dungeon that you'll get sometimes every now and again where there's a fungus that's gotten on board the ship and it's infected the brains of all of the crew. And so they're like fungus infected zombies that resurrect themselves after they died. And so you can't actually kill anything. And the game is supposed to, most of the missions, you can flip these power conduits. You know the power switches that are on the walls every now and again? Those will be damaged if you get the fungal bad guys. And if you flip them on, it's supposed to turn back on the rebreather system or to turn on the oxygen scrubbers, which kills off all of the fungus so that they don't re-res, but it's bugged right now so that even after you flip the switch, they still res. And so one thing you will note about Dead Knot is that a lot of the rooms are very, very fragile. And so if you get into like long, protracted gunfights, extended gunfights in a room, you can get into trouble. Well, that's where the resing zombies really, really hit you where it hurts because you practically tear the ship in half just like constantly fighting the same 5 enemies as they follow you all over the ship. It creates an interesting gameplay experience, but it's very, very difficult to win. I made it to the 3rd mission with the fungal bad guys, and I've gotten them 3 or 4 times now, and I usually peter out somewhere around the 3rd or 4th mission. I just can't bring it home. I can't finish it because it's just too much. The ships get too fragile, and the fungus gets too strong, and it's just like, whoo, it gets ugly. It gets very, very ugly. So that's where we are with Dead Knot. I'm probably just going to do one series of it. I'm pretty happy with the way that it came out. I'm glad that we won on our first playthrough. There's a lot more stuff to show off in it just based on the random generator system, but that same system, for example, I sat down to record a couple more episodes and I just got the same bad guys. I got the ethereal guys that we already had over and over and over again, and that's a good way to waste 3 or 4 hours just trying to get the enemies that you want. So, and you don't know until you get like halfway through the first level, so you're at least 10 minutes into every attempt before you have to be like, all right, I got to start over. We got the same enemy, and so I'd rather just not deal with it until they put an option in the game where maybe you could pick who you want to fight or something. I don't know. It seems like it'd be a nice thing to change around after the random elements kind of like work their way through your system and you want to see specific enemy sets so that you can learn to fight against them. Either way, I'm happy with the Dead Knot series, and so I don't feel bad about, you know, moving on to new things, especially considering how like busy the new release list is going to be in the next 2 weeks. Basically, I have to like move stuff along right now without doing second seasons if people want to see stuff like Dying Light and H1Z1 and all that kind of fun stuff. I feel like I really dropped the ball with DayZ Standalone, and so with H1Z1, I'm actually really going to try and like cover the game extensively and have a good time with it. I think we've hit just about everything. So let's go ahead and dive into, the weekend review Q&A. This might be a little bit of a shorter episode, but I'm pretty happy with where we are right now. What's my timer running? We're at 20 minutes right now. That's fine, whatever. We'll make this thing go as long as we can. Several YouTubers have said that once they get to a certain point, they accumulate fans who stalk them. Do you have problems like that as well? Limited, very, very limited. There's been a couple things that have happened that have been vaguely creepy, where I had to like talk to the person and be like, listen, you can't do stuff like that, man. I don't know where you're from, but where I'm from, like saying things like that, it comes across like a threat almost. And then after that, they'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't realize. And it's because, you know, they're bilingual, like they speak 2 languages, and maybe in their home language saying something like that isn't necessarily offensive or you don't take offense at it. But when you translate it and then you say it in English, it comes across as just like one of those things where you're like, if it wasn't in text, I'm sure you could tell by the tone of their voice. But because it's in text, it's all up to your imagination. And I've noticed that I tend to read things negatively in the voice in my head. And so I've had a couple people like post creepy things or like send me emails and stuff that are kind of odd, but no like real stalkers, to be honest. I know a couple other people who've had issues like that, but if you were to create a board game, how would it be and what would it be? Actually, it would be something like, let me see here. There's a board game, I can't remember the name of it. Let me see if I could do this research here. Let's see, best adventure board games. I forget the name of the game. Let's see here. It's going to be in here somewhere, I bet. I bet you it'll be on this list. So anyways, it would be somewhere in between like Descent, Journeys in the Dark, and, oh, it's actually not on this list. They didn't put it on their top 10s. It's a very, very niche. I can't remember the name of the game now. I can't remember the name. I think it might be on Board Game Geek. Maybe. It's very, very rare. You can't get it anymore. It's a board game that came out in the 70s, and I would love to plug the name, and I just can't seem to lock it down here. Let's see. Magic Realm. That's the game. It would be a lot like Magic Realm. Magic Realm was a very, very experimental board game, and actually I started work on this. I got about halfway. I wrote about 50 pages worth of rules, and I had made the modular board, and I had printed out the stuff on my printer, and I'd started to put the board game together because I'm very, very into board games, and it's one of those eclectic things that I got into for like a year, making board games, and I was almost done with it, and then I just never finished it. I still have it on a flash drive, like all of the prototypes and everything else. I still have them on a flash drive. I threw away the prototypes that I made because, I have it all on a flash drive, and I can reprint it and remake it if I need to. But Magic Realm was a modular board game, which was very, very odd. It was very complicated. It was very sort of niche, but it was probably the most in-depth, hardcore RPG you could ever play. And so there were tiles that you would flip over as you adventured around, and there were various events that could take place on various tiles that would come out of a big-ass game book, kind of like with Tales of Arabian Nights. And you would read the events, and then based on your character and like all of these stats that you had taken time to roll, it was a very, very long-winded, difficult game to learn. And I think there are very few people that actually understand how to play Magic Realm cover to cover without checking on rules and things like that. But it was the most in-depth, hardcore board game RPG I've ever seen. And it was just like, it's a really, really cool game. I've always wished that there would be a modern remaking of it, and it's never happened because I don't think there's a market for it anymore. I think people's attention spans are too short, and it's just too difficult. Like, I remember that game used to get stomped out like 2 seconds into the game, and you'd just be like, damn it, because it's all randomly generated with the modular board, so occasionally you would flip a tile, and you would be like fighting an ogre on your first turn. You're like, well, and he would just like smush you with his big rock stick, just you'd be like, haha, your death rocked, and then that was all that there was to it, and you'd be all done and over with. So anyways, Magic Realm, it would be something along the lines of Magic Realm. I designed a modular board, and I just closed my Q&A screen on accident. I'm sorry. I got to get that back up and running. It'll only take a second. But yeah, I started to design a game like that, and I ran into a couple of problems with the random generation where sometimes you couldn't guarantee that the tiles were going to be laid in the way that you wanted. And I was working on solving that because actually making sure that hex-shaped tiles always connect properly when flipped face down is a much more complicated task than you would guess, especially considering I played around with an idea where the bottom of the tile had arrows on it to show where it connected, but then you had to make multiple copies of each tile that were different from each other so that people wouldn't memorize what this tile was and place it like right next to where they started when you started the game off, because that's how the game was randomly generated. When you started the game, each player started out with a handful of these hexagonal tiles and would play them face down as unexplored tiles wherever they wanted. And I liked the idea where the back of the card had an arrow on it that showed it where it connected, but then it kind of like there was map creep. My map ended up being very, very large because you had to make multiple copies of the same thing that were shaped a little bit differently but still connected the way that you wanted them to so that the game would play properly. And it was a cool game though. I have all the characters on big like cardstock sheets and everything that I made. I never finished it. I had a friend that designed a card game, and he actually made a lot of money off of it. He still lives in my hometown right now. I've got him on my Facebook. I talked to him the other day. He made quite a little bit of money off his card game. He made kind of like a battle card game, like, what's the name? God, I'm forgetting all these games right now. It was called, I've got it on my Amazon list right now because I was going to buy it. Let's see here. I'll grab it off my Amazon list. It was like a modular card game that was very, very similar Netrunner. It was like Netrunner. He designed a game that was like Netrunner, and then he made some money off of it. It was fairly successful. I was surprised how much money he made off of a board game because you don't think of it as being like that big of a deal. But honestly, there's a pretty big community that plays board games. I mean, I've got 5 or 6 things on my wish list right now on Amazon. I've got Netrunner, I've got Mice and Mystics, I've got Legends of Andor, I've got City of Horror, I've got Archipelago. I've got a whole bunch of games on my wish list that I've just never gotten around to buying. Like, I've got Claustrophobia, Gear World. I've got a bunch of board games on here that I've just never, like, gotten around to purchasing because it takes a lot of time to, like, sit down and play a board game. I actually really like the Firefly board game. My girlfriend got it for me for our anniversary, and I really, really enjoyed it, like, all the way along. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun with it. So, anyways, that takes us back. Let me get back to my videos here. Let's see. I got to get back to the Q&A page. It fell off of my cursor, unfortunately. All right, so that leaves us. If you were to create an RPG system, how would it be? I think the big flaw with RPGs right now is that all of the areas that Ultima explored have been abandoned and seen as being backwards and not fun. Ultima remains one of my favorite series, and I played all the way up till Ultima Pagan, I think, is the last Ultima that I played. And I always liked the way that Ultima felt very, very open-ended. Like, there was nothing you had to do in Ultima. There was a main storyline quest, but you were free to wander around, and this was kind of pre-Elder Scrolls back in the Akalabeth days and everything. But I think there's something to be said about even Skyrim and Oblivion. We're very, very careful about, like, there are these skills. You can't do anything outside of these skills. You have all these skills to choose from. You have these various actions and things that you can do, and with mods, those expand. But the thing that Ultima allowed you to do was all kinds of weirdness, where you could walk up to a random guy in the street and hand him, like, a loaf of bread, and just, like, wait and see what the NPC's reaction was. Like, there was weird stuff like that that you could do that was just, like, there was no reason to do it, but systems were in place where if you wanted to fool around and just do, like, dumb shit and walk around a fantasy world, like, just trying out various emotes and doing things, you could, and weird stuff would happen as a result of that while you were free roaming around. I would love to see RPGs go back to the days of, like, Ultima, for example, but retrofitted to make it a little bit more accessible. I think Skyrim is on the right path, and I'm interested to see. Skyrim was a bit more theme parky, though. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but since Morrowind, Elder Scrolls has gotten increasingly, like, theme parky. It's gotten a lot more storyline. It's gotten a lot more things that you're supposed to chase down. Yes, there are random locations you can go to, but the subtext for the game of the main storyline, it's gotten thicker. Like, the main storyline quest has become more and more important in each concurrent Elder Scrolls game. And I would like to see a game where everything's emergent. That's the kind of RPG, something like what Cube World was working towards, or something like what Hardland is working towards, where not only is the game randomly generated, but the main storyline quest is randomly generated. The side quests are all randomly generated, and they're done so in a way that's believable, where part A leads to part B. Maybe you're betrayed by a quest guy right here, then that leads to part C, or if you don't get betrayed randomly, it'll go to part D. Like, and things start branching out in those ways, and I realize, like, web-like systems like that, when you design them, get more and more increasingly complicated, but that's actually what I want to. Cube World, you can't buy Cube World anymore. Cube World was a game that I was hoping, like, a lot of the things they were shooting for with Cube World were very interesting concepts, and it's unfortunate that it appears as though the game is dead now. It hasn't had an update in like 2 years anyway, so I figured it was probably dead, but they took down the actual store now. You can't buy it anymore. Cube World, if you have a copy, you can still play it on the Picroma servers or whatever. It'll still validate you, but you can't buy the game anymore. They took it down. Now, this could just be Chicken Little people freaking out and being like, the game is canceled. I know that the EU just had like a change in the way that VAT taxes are distributed for digital software, so they may have taken it down because they were not in compliance with the new law, and they're like trying to get in compliance with it, which means that we may see a Cube World release on Steam at some point, because I know that Steam is VAT compliant or whatever it is. I don't know what the law is specifically, but the EU has stricter laws about how digital distribution is done than the United States and Northern America do. So I know that they just had a retrofitting of those laws, and I think some people are saying that the Cube World store was taken down because I think Wolfram von Funk, I don't know where he's from, where Walle's from, maybe like Germany, or I don't know where Walle's from. I'd actually have to look it up. But anyways, the developer of Cube World, he might be in one of those EU compliant countries where he has to follow this law now, and his store may not have been up to snuff, so I don't know. If I had to design an RPG system, it would be kind of like what Hardland and Cube World were working towards, where everything's randomly generated, but not in like a goofy patchwork quilt sort of way. Like, make it smooth, like Fable, but with randomly generated stuff that you can just like work your way into. How do you decide what to show on your channel? What to start, what to continue, and what to cancel? You kind of get a sixth sense for it, actually. It's kind of like if you want to be successful on YouTube, I feel cynical about saying this, but there are ways to be more successful at YouTube. And so if you're interested in doing YouTube for a job, you want to start looking for the common things that cause indie games to go viral. If you're into indie games already, why not maximize your chances of growing by looking for the ones that you both enjoy and are most likely to go viral? That's always been the way that I look at it, is I'll play any indie game. You guys know that I've shown off indie games that have like 50 sales. Like, I don't mind showing off games nobody's ever heard of, but part of growing a YouTube channel is learning to lock onto things like This War of Mine, which became way, way more popular than I think most people expected. Or, for example, looking for games like The Forest, which got very, very viral like overnight. I didn't even expect The Forest. I was going to play it either way, and then it went viral, and it just worked out to the benefit of the channel. When it comes to canceling things, I look at a couple different factors. What the viewership is like. So if out of 75,000 people, 200 people are showing up to watch the video, that's a very, very difficult video to justify the hour-and-a-half recording, editing, and rendering it, because during that time, I could have done something that the community would like better. If I enjoy the game, I will mash it all the way out. So, for example, with Child of Light, I decided even though the viewership was not where I wanted it to be, I finished the series because we were already so far in and I wanted to finish the game because I wanted to see what the conclusion was going to be. Largely, I base it on two factors, though. First and foremost, am I enjoying the game? I'll cancel a game in a heartbeat if I don't enjoy it, and I'll just post on Twitter about it and be like, yeah, not having fun with it, I'm done, and just finish it off, which is what I did with Crown Takers. I found out that, like, as I was playing the game, I just stopped enjoying it. I was like, this is not fun. I don't want to play anymore. The game is just, like, unfairly random, and so I don't want to play anymore, and there it is. And so I basically stopped playing it because I wasn't having fun anymore. The second factor I look at is viewership. If the viewership has fallen out and I'm not enjoying a series, then I'll usually get rid of it just because I'm making room for something else that maybe more people will enjoy. If there's like still, I mean, my thresholds are really, really low for canceling a series. Like seriously, if it's getting anywhere over, I mean, I don't have like a concrete number, but I would say like Styx is the perfect example. I started playing the game, but 250 people out of, 70,000 subscribers were watching it. I like the game, but it was kind of a pain to record. It was a little bit of a hassle. And then on top of that, like, just nobody seemed interested in it because that's not the kind. I don't do a lot of stealth games. And so obviously my community is built around survival games. So usually what I look for when trying to feature something is it a survival game, first and foremost. Survival crafting games make up the meat and potatoes of everything on this channel. And if it's not that, then it's zombies, because those are the sorts of things that I enjoy. That doesn't preclude me from playing other little things that I enjoy, like Project Aura. But you can see if you look at my numbers, Project Aura performed a lot worse than, say, like Subnautica did, because Subnautica is very much in line with sort of the tenor or the timber that I've set for the channel. Like, it fits in with all of the other things that I do, and so I have a community that expects certain things. Neo Scavenger did very, very, very well because it fits inside the parameters that I've built up. But like I said, popularity is not, I mean, mostly it's whether I'm enjoying it or not. That's, if I'm playing a game and I'm having a blast with it in pre-release, I'll probably show it off. In fact, I have like so many games right now that I want to do series of that I don't have time to, that it's mind-boggling. Like, you're also curious about Grimrock. You played the first game in what seemed like preparation for the release date of the sequel, but then you didn't cover Grimrock 2. Grimrock 1 was a series that I'd never gotten the chance. I bought it like back when it first came out. It was on my Steam list. Everybody else seemed to love it, and so I was like, all right, I'll do a series of it blind. And I did the series of it, and I had fun with my time in Grimrock, but I just didn't enjoy the puzzle aspect of it. If the second one was less puzzly, then I would probably play it, but I don't like puzzle games, and it actually turned out to be a lot more puzzly than I expected. And so there ended up being times where I would have to turn off the recording and fiddle around with a puzzle for like 45 minutes, turn the game back on, finish the episode, then I have to go stream, and I have like a set time, like 9 to 5, that I try and work. And so because of those delays, like, I wouldn't get the things I wanted done during the day, which would then mean I had to work till like midnight or 1 in the morning in order to get it out for the next day. And it was just like, with the puzzles and whatnot, having to move things around, it got a little bit too stressful for me. Like, I like Grimrock if I had played it by myself, but I don't think it's a series that was conducive to an LP, if you catch my distinction right there. I don't know. I like Grimrock. Like, I wouldn't give it a bad review score just because I don't like puzzles. I'd probably give Grimrock like an 8.5. There are little things in it that bother me with the UI and things like that, and I like the game, but it's just, I don't think it was a good game to LP. I just don't think it was a good game to LP personally. Let's see here. When you're approaching the idea of a Let's Play for a game... So what goes through your head when approaching the idea of a Let's Play for a game that isn't new and relevant? First and foremost, if you're going to play an old game, you need to know stuff about it. Nobody wants to watch a video of you playing an old game for the... So if I was going to play Mass Effect for the first time, like blind at this point, that would be a totally pointless LP because nobody would watch it. The people who are really, really into Mass Effect would rip on you for being terrible at it. And anybody that doesn't, like anybody that hasn't cared about Mass Effect yet at this point is not going to start caring about it at this point just because I start to play it. So when I look at an older game and I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to feature it on the channel, first and foremost, did I love this game as a kid? So games like Sid Meier's Pirates are a no-brainer for me when there's no games coming out because I love the hell out of that game. Like, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I will do a series on Fable someday because it's one of my favorite games of all time and I know stuff about it. I spent hundreds of hours playing it when I was younger, just like wasting time playing the game. And so I know things about it. I know where secrets are. I know how to do the quests. I know like secrets in the combat and stuff like that. When you play an old game, people seem to expect there to be a pretense of good gameplay when you play older games that is not there when you play newer games. Nobody blames you for sucking at Dying Light because it just came out. But if you played Fable on your channel in 2015, people would definitely blame you for sucking, and they don't want to see it blind. They want to see you go through and like know all the secrets that they know, even though it seems a little bit pedantic. So the first thing that I think of is, the first thing I'll look at are games that I loved when I was a kid. All right, so now that I've got that list down, I then narrow it further to games I still know a lot of stuff about, or a game that I can do a 4-hour playthrough of real fast to refresh my memory. And then while I'm going through that 4 hours, I'll come up with like some random jokes and like some one-liners, and I'll commit those to memory real fast, and then I'll just make up the rest as we go. And that's pretty much how I prepare for doing a series on an older game. There's not a whole lot more to it than that. It's just like I try to pick games that I already have a good love for, and then I try to like go through and kind of refresh my memory first before I play it. But like, for example, we perfected... almost, anyways. We didn't get the Last Treasure because it was all the way to the west, and I didn't feel like going back there again. We almost perfected Sid Meier's Pirates, though. We missed it by like 1 point. I could have perfected it. It's just that it was really, really tedious going all the way to the coast of Mexico again to go grab that one thing we needed for a perfect run, and by that point I was a little burned out. I think that... Have you listened to Henry Rollins' spoken word stuff? I haven't, but I do enjoy Henry Rollins from time to time, just like hearing his opinions about stuff. He seems like an interesting individual. If you don't know who Henry Rollins is, I think he was the lead singer of Black Flag, I think. Let me find out. I think it was Black Flag. I'm not a huge punk rock guy. Let's see. Yeah, I was going to say, Henry Rollins started Black Flag, which is a punk band back in the 80s. And so that's who Henry Rollins is. He showed up in Jackass all over the place. He was on a lot of like MTV and VH1 kind of specials where he would just like talk about stuff. He's a cool guy. Occasionally he says shit that's dumb though. Like his position on suicide, for example, like people killing themselves. His position is really, really just kind of like, I don't agree with you. Like, I don't agree with you. People that do that sort of thing are not in their right state of mind. And so to berate them for doing that, like, for example, I think Henry Rollins said that like suicide was... I don't want to misquote him improperly, but anyways, I distinctly remember really, really disagreeing with his position on suicide after Robin Williams died. He had come out with like a snippet, and I don't want to misquote him, so I'll just say that I disagreed with his statement, and you guys can look it up so that I don't misquote him, because misquoting somebody is one of the most infuriating things you can do ever. If somebody like misquotes me, for example, it would frustrate the hell out of me. Or if they took something out of context and then wrote an article about it, it would drive me crazy, so I won't misquote him right here. I'll just say that I remember disagreeing with his opinions, but by and large, I like Henry Rollins. He seems like a pretty entertaining human being. He's been an entertainer since the 80s, so obviously he has to have at least some skill at it, otherwise he wouldn't have been around as long as he has. What are your opinions on top gaming YouTubers? PewDiePie, Rooster Teeth, Markiplier, and Jacksepticeye. Well, Jacksepticeye, I'll start with him because he's one of the ones I'm familiar with. I don't watch PewDiePie, and I don't watch Markiplier, and I don't watch Rooster Teeth. I have watched Jacksepticeye before. He's a little bit too energetic for me, though. Like, I sometimes I'm like, why are we shouting? But I don't care if other people like him. I always try and go out of my way because there's a lot of haters in the world right now that just hate on something because that person is successful, and they're angry, and they're jealous about it, and they wish that they could be successful doing the same thing. And so I would never down talk PewDiePie or Rooster Teeth or Markiplier for having a lot of subscribers or for being successful. They do what they do for their target demographic. Same with Jacksepticeye. It's not my preference. Like, I don't enjoy their content. And actually, I was just talking about this a little bit ago, where I talked about how a comedian was very, very hostile to people that said that they didn't enjoy her work, and how she would just start insulting them and like making fun of them and just like opening up on them when all they said is that they didn't enjoy her work. And I don't know where this came from, where you have to enjoy everybody's work. You don't have to like my videos. I would ask you to not like sit on my videos posting negative shit and like calling me names and stuff like that, because that's where it crosses the line. But if you say that I don't like your content, that doesn't like hurt my feelings at all. I'm like, okay, my content's not for everybody. That's like, Jack, the people that we've already mentioned, that they're not my type of LP that I would watch, but I don't care that anybody else watches them. That's fine. I'm glad that they're able to make a living doing something that they enjoy and that they have fan bases. That's totally fine by me. It's not my preference, but different strokes for different folks. I think that a lot of the confusion comes from that there's like a schism, or not a schism, I guess there's a rift. There's a rift in the LP community over whether LPs should be like mature entertainment or whether they should just be like highly edited, super goofy, like children's entertainment. And I think that's where a lot of the negativity that goes towards like PewDiePie and those people come from, is that their target demographic is not 20-somethings. Their target demographic is like 13, 14, 15-year-olds. That's who they're shooting for when they made their channels. That's who they want to entertain, which is a smart bracket to aim for from a marketing standpoint, because that's a bracket where they have a lot of time on the internet. They have a lot of free time. They have the ability to support these people. And so, you know, just because it's not for me doesn't mean that it's not for somebody else. I'm terrible at carpentry. Therefore, I don't like to do it, but I don't spite people who like to be carpenters. Like, do what you enjoy doing. I'm glad you were able to find success doing it. And so that's how I feel about that. But anyways, that's my opinion about the more popular LPers. I'm glad that they get to do something they love for a living. I'm glad that they have large fan bases. It's not my thing, but it doesn't have to be. So there you go. I think that's my standpoint on it. I don't watch them, but I don't mind that other people do. Let's see here. Let's see. Got to find ourselves another question right here. Lots of statements. Lots of statements. Hey, man, I set a potato chip on fire yesterday. Thanks. You're welcome. I'm glad that I told you that potato chips were flammable. Don't ask how I know. No, I know because of Les Stroud. Les Stroud showed it off in one of the episodes of Survivor Man, and he refers to it a couple times in his books too, where you can use a like potato chip, or you can use a Frito as like a standing wick for a flame if you need to, just in case your lighter's about to run out of fire or you only have one match. You can take the one match and light the corn chip on fire, and it'll sit there and it'll burn for a long ass time, probably about 10 minutes, so that at least if you like light the match and you screw up at starting a fire, you're not like up shit creek and now you have to make a friction fire, which is way worse. Although Cody Lundin makes it look like a champ. Cody Lundin sits down. I swear to God, Cody Lundin is a lot of things, but one of them is amazing at starting friction fires. Like friction fires, I've tried to start friction fires. They are a pain in the ass. Even with a fire bow, which is considered to be like the easiest way to do it. Even with a fire bow, it's very, very difficult. And Cody Lundin will sit down with like a stick and just be like, poof, and then there's a fire. You're just like, oh my God, you made it look so easy. Like, how did you do that? Like, I know people that are like Eagle Scouts and stuff that still can't do that consistently as quickly as you did. Like, I've been doing it my entire life. So there you go. Let's see here. There's got to be more thing. Kotaku, oh hells nah. Yeah, I pan and scanner. I actually don't read Kotaku. It's just that like I follow things. Like I have a lot of like random tabs up, and occasionally it's difficult to track down what things are coming up. And actually some of the magazines are pretty good at calling the next big thing, and then they like abandon it right after. It's odd, but anyways, I read a lot of different like online magazines, not very frequently. I use Reddit the most, honestly. I'm on Reddit like all the time. I have a weird Reddit addiction. It's like I go on Reddit at least an hour a day, like at least, just because Reddit is such like an inherently entertaining yet bickering place. Like it's interesting hearing people argue on Reddit. I don't know, some of the viewpoints that I've heard there too are like some real just like, you wonder what that guy does for example, I go to a lot of like the global news Reddits, and every now and again you have somebody that posts like a paragraph that's like so insightful about a world event, and in it they predict like the next things that are going to happen over the next like 2 or 3 weeks, and you watch and systematically each thing happens, and it makes you wonder what that guy does for a living. Be like, so is he like a senior advisor with, you know, the FBI, or like what does this guy do? You know, where, and it's an international audience too, so technically they could be with any government anywhere across the world. Dude could be a KGB agent for all I know, or for all any of us know, or he could work for, you know, he could work for any world government, essentially. And so it's just interesting. Every now and again you find one of these people. I wish you could follow people on Reddit. You could actually follow specific posters, because every now and again you get somebody that seems like they're way overqualified for like arguing things on Reddit. Like, there is no reason for them to be here trying to convince people of stuff because they are so overqualified for the conversation that they're having right now that you start to wonder what they do for a living, where they've accumulated this body of knowledge where they can just like predict world events as they come along based on their like, okay, well, this leader met with this leader and the prices on this commodity is now dropped. Therefore, this sanction going over here means that this is going to happen. And it's just weird watching people disassemble stuff sometimes. Like, how do you get that experience? I go to a lot of the financial Reddits as well. A lot of the Reddits about investments and money management and things like that because I'm terrible with money and I'm trying to get better at it. And so I just say that because I had my payday like 2 days ago and I went out and I bought like 5 3DS games like right after that, and I shouldn't have. I'm so bad with money. I'm the worst with money. Like, seriously, I always feel like a friend of mine was like, yeah, now that you've got a job and you've got like a career that you're working on, you got to get a dress watch so that like when you go to like Thanksgiving dinner and stuff, you dress classy. Like, I don't know, man. Whenever I buy expensive stuff, I always feel like a poor kid who's like acting rich but is not rich. I don't know. I went and I looked at watches today just because that guy said that, and I just couldn't justify like buying an expensive watch. I'd be like, oh, look, my phone has the time on it. Okay. Like, I just don't see the need in having like a gold-plated watch. Like, it's not something that I feel like I need. Like, I'm fine wearing earrings with, like, fake rhinestones and stuff in them. Like, I never really desired or wanted, like, the real thing. Like, why do I want a bunch of diamonds in my ear? Why do I want a watch with a bunch of diamonds on it? Like, I can check my time on my phone, like, and that's fine. That works for me. I don't know. I don't know. I'm bad with money, and so I'm trying to get better with money. So, is doing YouTube stuff essentially a 9-to-5 job? How is most of that spent? Recording episodes? Yeah, it is a 9-to-5 job. Although for me, it's more of like an 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock job because I like to sleep in. But most days I get up at 11 o'clock. I sit down, I eat my breakfast, I start working around 11:30. And if it's a stream day, I'll usually go till about 4 o'clock. I'll go for my run, I'll come back, we'll do the stream. I'll get done with the stream, I'll record like another thing real fast, I'll spend like another hour, and then I'll edit and I'll render. It's basically, it's a 9-to-5 job, but it's much more than that because if you're going to get in touch with your community and you're going to do like community stuff, talk to people, make sure that things get done, talk with developers, read magazines to know, make sure that you know who's the up-and-coming developer here. Like, you just have to be aware of a lot of stuff to do this on YouTube, at least if you're doing a new release channel like I do. You've got to talk to a lot of people, you've got to email a lot of people, so there's a lot of extra stuff too that bleeds into your free time. So if a developer emails me back at 1 in the morning from France, I get out of bed and I email him back real fast because me responding to that email might make me get a key earlier than like some other people, which is important. Like, the structure of the way YouTube works is reliant on a lot of factors, and so you have to hustle to get stuff done on YouTube, otherwise you fall behind. Not only is it like a 9-to-5 job, but it's a 7-day-a-week job for sure. I usually take a day off every 10 to 11 days. And it's just, I love my job, so it doesn't feel like work to me a lot of the time, but I've had a lot of trouble balancing real life stuff too. Like, I've had people tell me that I'm working too much and I need to like do this with family and like, you know, make time. I've had people call me on it a couple times because nobody teaches you how to have a job like this that like takes up all of your time. And so you sacrifice a lot for it too. It's a 9-to-5 job. Most of the time it's a 7-days-a-week job because even on your off days, for example, I commented and I've been responding to comments throughout the day today. Like on my phone, I've been doing it whenever I'm home. I jump on my laptop and I answer a few comments or I'll email something back. Like, even in your off days, you work. And so most of that is spent, I would say recording will take up about 4 hours a day in there, assuming nothing goes wrong. If things go wrong, it'll be like a 5 or a 6 hour thing. And then from there, the editing is usually pretty quick. You audio balance things. That doesn't take too long. That probably takes about 10-15 minutes if you're slow at it like I am, because I like to check and double check things because I screw them up. Look at my last week. I've screwed up like 4 videos, and so I really try to double check myself, and even so sometimes I don't catch it. It's just I pay attention to a lot of things, and so unfortunately things slip through the cracks. But it's definitely it's a job. Like, it's a job that you work like anybody else. Like, I have a friend that works in sales for a major construction industrial tool manufacturer, and he works like I do, like 7 days a week, it's just like a normal career. The only difference is my career is more fun than a lot of other people's, I guess. But even so, if you have a day where everything falls apart, that's not a fun day. Like, there are some days where you sit down to record something and just like thing after thing after thing goes wrong, and you're like 5 hours into your day and you've accomplished nothing. And you're frustrated and you're irritated and you haven't showered yet and you haven't like done any of the stuff you wanted to do with your day. And it's just like, on those days, it definitely feels like a job, but luckily most days are not that day. And so I would say my job is infinitely more pleasurable than working at Best Buy, which I used to work at Best Buy, or working at Blockbuster Video, or I used to be a busboy for a while at a restaurant. and I used to be a roofer. Like, it's more fun than any of those jobs by long, long, long strides. So you take the good with the bad, just like with anything else. Yeah, a lot of it is going to be rendering. Rendering is the process of finalizing a video, and it takes on a 60 frame per second video that's 25 minutes long at like a good bit rate, which is the quality of the video, at a decent bit rate so that it looks like it's 1080p 60 frames, will take upwards of 2 hours to 2.5 hours to render. And so it's automated, but I have to come back in and I have to check it every now and again to make sure that my computer didn't crash or something, because it occasionally does that. And so most of your time is spent rendering. I bet you talk to any YouTuber and you ask them what uses up most of their time, rendering. It's always rendering. You sit there waiting for that progress bar to fill up. Editing, comparatively, for the things that I do, I don't edit that much. Like, I just kind of like clean up the color balance, and then I fiddle with some stuff, and then it's fairly routine for me at this point. Occasionally I have to edit, and that doesn't take that long, but for example, with The Forest, I had to like seriously edit that series because I had to put in the little censor bars for like boobies and stuff like that, and that took forever. Oh my god. Like, the little floaty bars that they use on cops to hide people's personality, or to hide people's faces, takes forever. That process is a huge pain in the ass, because you have to go frame by frame and move that little blurry box around to make sure that it follows the person's face as they move around on screen. Oh, especially if they're like running around super fast. Oh, it takes so long. It takes so long to get done. But anyways, I don't do too much editing, so it's not that bad. You should do a LP of Battle for Middle-earth. Battle for Middle-earth was okay, but I can't see myself doing a playthrough of it at this point, especially considering it's not in like 1080p or anything else. So that means I would have to make, like, instead of having the black bars on YouTube, I would have to make like a background for it to fit into like a video player. I don't know. I don't think I'm interested enough in Battle for Middle-earth to do a playthrough of it. I beat it way back when it first came out, but I haven't played it in a long time. Let's see here. Is your insomnia related to caffeinated drinks or a feedback loop? No, it's not like that. I tried that for a while, where I took all the caffeinated beverages out of my diet and I still didn't sleep. It's because my brain's too active. I think too much. I lay down in bed and I just like think about stuff while I stare at the wall. And so it takes me a long time to unwind and relax. And so my brain is just too active. I think it's ADD or something. Like, I just think too much while I lay in bed, and it just keeps me up late. It's not like unpleasant thoughts. Sometimes I'm thinking about totally cool things, like things that I want to do with my next day and stuff like that. And I get so caught up like planning out my next day in my head that I don't sleep, or I start like worrying about this release or that release, or whether this developer emailed me. Just random stuff. It's not like anxiety related. It's just due to the fact that I'm like always thinking about things that need to get done. And so I just don't sleep. I've kind of gotten used to it, honestly. I sleep probably about 4.5 hours a night, maybe. You get used to it after a while. I don't know. It's weird. When it first started, when I was in college, I almost died. Like, it was the worst. But now that I'm acclimated to it, it's not that bad. They say Leonardo da Vinci only slept like 45 minutes every couple hours or something like that. Like, he slept every 5 or 6 hours. He slept for like 30 minutes or something like that. It might be an urban legend. But I know a lot of people like Da Vinci and Raphael and, all of the old Renaissance painters didn't sleep very much. I did a lot of research on insomnia for a while, because if it's something you like have to deal with on a nightly basis, you want to study about it. And so I studied like insomnia for a while and just like the history of it. And it's actually kind of interesting how like insomnia was not like a thing back in Victorian times. Like, people just didn't sleep, because as long as you got your job done, like let's say that you were like a print writer or whatever, as long as you got your job done, nobody cared as long as like whatever you were doing was turned in on time, you didn't have to work like specific hours back then. So if you didn't sleep, you would just like sleep for a little while during the day, and then you would like go do this. And it was they had like a cavalier way of dealing with sleeping, whereas like nowadays people's lives are so busy and we work all day every day that we're expected to sleep like between this hour and this hour, and if you don't, then you're tired like the entire next day. It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition between like the way different cultures and different time periods think about sleeping. Puts things into perspective, I guess. Let's see here. Will you play any Warband mods before Bannerlord is released? Probably not. And then will Darkwood make a return to the channel anytime soon? Maybe when the 1.0 comes out. When the 1.0 comes out, I could see us doing a playthrough, but up until then, I'll probably leave it shelved. Let's see. What do you think about Heroes of Might and Magic 3 HD? I have no idea, to be honest. I never played Might and Magic 3. I started playing Might and Magic somewhere around... I guess the time Might and Magic... There was like a... What was the name of that game? Heroes of Might and Magic, I guess, is where I started playing the series. I know a lot of people talk about Heroes of Might and Magic 3 with like a wistful tone in their voice, but I don't really have anything to interject right there. I'm not sure I've never played it, so I can't really express an opinion, I guess. You answered this. Did you tell the NCE what MMO offered you compensation for doing a series? It was... What was the name of the game? I think it fell through. They were going to contact me or something this year about it, and then they never did, and I didn't care enough to, like, chase it down. It was like some... What was the game called? I'm trying to think of it right now. I got a bad memory. It was Albion Online, I think was the name of it. And then I also got offered a contract to make a 10-episode series for some Russian MMO. I turned down the Russian MMO one because the game looked like it sucked. And I was like, I'm not going to promote something that even from the videos looks terrible. Albion Online, I watched a couple other people play it, and I was like, yeah, I have an MMO addiction, and I do like MMOs, so I could do a first impression series on it if you want me to, if you're going to pay me for it. But the big stipulation that I always had is, am I allowed to critique the game? Because if you're going to censor me, then I'm just not going to do the series. I don't care if you're paying or not. Like, if I can't express my opinions about the game, I'm not going to play it, and I'm not going to accept compensation for it, because I feel like part of my job is to bring up little things that I notice along the way so that other people be warned about them. In no way am I a journalist. I'm not a trained journalist. I never went to journalism school. I never graduated with a degree in journalism. So I don't think about it professionally like that. I think about it just in terms of, like, being ethical. I don't like being censored. That kind of irks me the wrong way. So if you tell me that I can't talk about the negative things about the game, well, then I'm just not going to cover your game, and I can return the money, or you can just not pay me and I can do it, you know, out of my own pocket, because I'd rather retain the rights to my own opinion. Every now and again you see somebody give like a glowing praise of a game, and then down at the bottom they have to tell you if it's a paid advertisement. You'll see it was like, this was compensated for at the bottom, like their descriptions. They'll put it all the way down at the bottom of the description so that nobody notices, but they're like, this is a paid advertisement. You actually, there's a checkbox on YouTube that by law you have to check. It says paid advertisement, and you have to click on that, and then YouTube puts up a warning that says this is a paid advertisement before your video, because legally if you don't do it, they have to do it, because they're the platform that you're operating through. So it's like, but yeah, it was Albion Online was the one that I was receptive to. I was like, yeah, if you guys want to pay me to do a series, you can pay me to do a series as long as I can express my opinions about the game. If you're going to say that I can't show any bugs, or if you're going to say that I can't talk about bugs, or I can't talk about the things I don't like, then I'll pass. They seemed like they were okay with it, though. They emailed me back and they were like, yeah, that's fine. We just want you to do a series and show it off to your viewers. I'm like, okay. They offered me, I don't remember how much it was. It was pretty generous, though. It wasn't like super, super generous. But it was like they wanted like a 5-episode series, and they were going to pay by the 1,000 views, and it was way better than what I would get just from YouTube per 1,000 view. But yeah, it was Albion Online was the one that I was receptive to, just because I had seen the game and it looked interesting from the LPs that I played, or I'm sorry, from the LPs that I watched, but they never went through, so it never happened, so I'm not really worried about it. Why don't you try playing Valiant Hearts? I've heard it's depressing, and I don't like to play depressing games on the channel. I like to keep things upbeat. Like, there's been a couple games that we've played so far that have been, like, depressing. And so, like, for example, I streamed The Walking Dead, and that was, like, the most depressing stream ever. Like, there was no happiness, there was no joy, there was no joking. It was just like, wow, this game is depressing. And so I tend to stay away from stuff that's really, really kind of like a downer. Like, I don't mind if the game has, like, a sad part in it, but Valiant Hearts seems like one of those games that's, like, depressing all the way through from what I've seen from other people. What is the reasoning behind putting videos on YouTube 1 episode a day? If you're batch recording them, why don't you have like a day where you upload like 6 episodes? Because nobody watches them. Like, that's actually the hard, like, I'm not going to lie to you guys, nobody watches them when you do that. There's an exponential drop in a series mathematically. I bet there's a theorem you could come up with, but exponentially viewership drops off after. So let's say that I post 3 episodes of Dead State in one day, episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3. I can virtually guarantee you nobody's going to watch episode 3. It's going to have like 40 views, and that's going to hurt it when it goes to be judged by YouTube for the search returns. And so the strategy that goes into putting out 1 video a day is a calculated one, and also it works for my schedule. It allows me to take days off and stuff like that. But doing 1 video a day means that you don't overwhelm people by putting out too much content, because a large proportion of the community on YouTube will be like, oh, he put out 5 videos of just this thing today. I'm not going to watch it because now I feel overwhelmed and it's just too much and I don't want to catch up. That's your first problem. The second problem is just that in terms of flow through, YouTube looks at how many views you get in the first 24 hours that your video is up, and it assigns it an internal grade. And based on that grade, that's where you're going to show up in the search returns. And so let's say that episode 1 does fine, episode 2 does and then episode 3, nobody watches it. Well, you can virtually assure that episode 2 and episode 3 aren't going to show up in the search returns. Episode 1 is probably going to do fine because it got its normal viewership, but it's both a pragmatic, it's a business solution. It's highly recommended by most YouTube specialists that you do not upload more than like 1 episode of a series per day, because that's a documented fact. I can watch it happen. In fact, I played with it when I first started recording on YouTube, and it's true. I used to upload 2 or 3 episodes of like Don't Starve in a day, and nobody would watch episode 3. Very few people would watch episode 2, and then a bunch of people would watch episode 1. And so if you batch release like that for a similar series, you're kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. It's a weird psychological line you have to walk between like the way the viewer sees things and the way you see things. Like, I would absolutely love to put out like a 30 episode series in one day, just be like done with it, not have to deal with it. But that means that I don't have a backlog. If I get sick or if anything happens or I get in a car accident or for whatever reason I can't make videos for like 2 weeks because I'm in the hospital or because it's a family emergency, I like having a backlog so that I don't have to like put a break inside the viewer experience. B, it's just like it's convenient for my schedule. And C, all research on YouTube shows that if you do multiple episodes of a same series in the same day, very few people will watch the final episodes. And there's no trickle through either. Most people get overwhelmed and they just won't watch it at all. So that's the reasoning behind it. Let's see here. Don't have anything over there. Splattercat, you run a lot. Can you give exercise tips? Exercise tips. Okay, I mean, I can. I'm not a physical trainer, so obviously if you have special medical considerations, you should talk to your doctor first. Point that waiver right there. So exercise tips, I mean, just do it would be the first one. It's a hard enough thing to get off the couch and go and start exercising. So if you start, it becomes difficult to stop. It becomes part of your routine. That's what you want. You want the exercise to become part of your routine so that you can take weight off and keep it off. So where I would start, okay, so I'll answer your questions first. So what do you wear? Just anything that's comfortable for you. I'd recommend if you're trying to drop weight, if you're trying to cut weight, I would recommend just honestly wear anything that makes you comfortable to work out. If you enjoy, like for example, I wear like a wife beater and running shorts. Not like the ones like cyclists wear, but just like some plain cloth workout shorts that I got from like Sportsmart or Sports Chalet or whatever. They were like $5 at Walmart, and they're just like workout shorts. They're just cotton workout shorts with an elastic band, and then I wear a wife beater when I go out. If that doesn't work, I used to, if it's a little chilly out, I'll wear like a full shirt. If it's chilly out, for sure, I wear a beanie, and I wear a long sleeve shirt, but I still wear my shorts when I work out. Get yourself some running shoes would be my recommendation. Running in makeshift shoes is not going to work. So if you're running in skate shoes, I've done it for years, but that's because I'm used to it. But honestly, it's messed up my gait sometimes, so get real running shoes. How fast, how far, and how much time do you run? On average, I would say that I run about 4 miles in about 24 to 25 minutes most days. That's usually about how long my run takes, and I've worked up to that. So don't take that as like you need to be running that fast when you start out. When I started out, I ran 1 mile. I couldn't run 1 mile when I first started. I had to walk half of it. I ran a half mile, and then I walked the other half. And you just slowly work your way up. As you get better and better at it, you will run further and further. But you need to be strict with yourself and increase your distance until you're happy. Like right now, doing 3 to 5 miles a day makes me happy. I could do 8 or 9 miles, but I have no desire to. Like with the point my body is at in my physical training, I know I can do those longer distances because I've run them with my friends or with family members and things like that. However, 4 miles, like 25 minutes, it fits inside my schedule. Like I can fit that in real fast before I start the stream. Every other day I run, and then I do upper body. So on the in-between days, I guess I run, if it's a 24-minute, I'm running a 6-minute mile. So that means that I'm probably going about 10 miles an hour seems fast. That seems a lot faster than I'm running, but I don't know. Anyways, I run it in like 25 minutes or so. I don't know. I'm probably miscalculating right here. It's been a long time since I brought my phone with me on a run and like paced out how fast I'm going. When I run on a treadmill, I usually put it on like 6.5, 7 miles an hour, and then I put it at a really steep incline. And when I do that, I'll usually run for 25 minutes just as I normally would. I usually put it at a very, very steep incline though, because I like hill running. Once you get done flatland running, you start like increasing your parameters and you start like adding inclines. So for example, when I moved to my new house, there's a giant hill over there and I was like, oh, I'm going to run that hill. And so I factored that into my like 4-mile run every day now, as I have that big hill in the middle because I enjoy running it. It makes me feel good. What else do we have here? What do you do before and after exercise? Nothing really. Before an exercise, if I'm feeling particularly sore, I'll stretch. But if I'm not feeling sore, I usually just hop straight into it and it's usually fine. After my exercise, I usually have a cool down period where you should always walk like a half mile or walk like a mile after you get done running, just to let your body cool down so that you don't go from running to repose like instantly, because I've heard that's bad for you. Your body doesn't like doing stuff like that. So I usually will have about a 1 mile cool down after I run my normal mile, where I just kind of like let my blood pressure come down, I let my heart rate go down, I let my sweat dissipate a little bit so that when I come back in the house I'm not like a nasty mess or whatever. But I run usually in the afternoons. If it's summer, because it's like 115 degrees here in the summer, I'll run at night. I usually run around 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night if it's nighttime, just because that's when it cools down enough to where you can run without killing yourself. However, I do run in the sun a couple days a week during the summer. I'll go out like at 3 o'clock in the summer when it's like 106, 105, and I'll do my normal run, because I don't know, it teaches you something about life and like suffering and silence. But don't do that if you're not an experienced runner. Like, you have to hydrate properly and stuff if you're gonna do that. Like, seriously, it's really, really dangerous. Don't do that unless you're like experienced at running and unless you know how to hydrate properly. I do it because it builds up my tan, and I don't do it every day. I do it like every other day, and it teaches you to suffer in silence, which is an important thing to learn in life. Like, learning to do unpleasant things without like being grumpy about it. I don't know. That's why I run when it's really, really hot out. When it's like 104, I'll still go for a run, because it trains your mind. It teaches you to learn to suffer through unpleasant things without being like, I quit, and just like going home just because you're getting sweaty and you don't feel good and it's like hot. But if you're not an experienced runner, don't do that. That's something that I started doing in the last year because I'm lazy and I don't feel like waiting till 11 o'clock at night to run. So I just would rather run right now at 2:30 in the afternoon in the summer. I don't know. It's weird that I said I'm lazy so that I run in the afternoon. I'm impatient. There we go. That's better. I feel bad until I run every day. It's weird. You get like a guilt complex. It's called the run guilt or the workout guilt. You get it after a while where you feel really, really guilty if you miss a day. I don't know. I do upper body every other day, and so I'll usually do like 100, 150 burpees. I'll do inclined push-ups. So I have barbells, and they let me go really, really deep on push-ups so that you can bring the barbell all the way up past your shoulder almost. And then I put my feet on the desk and I incline it and I go down. That's something I've worked up to too, though. Putting your feet on an incline, it adds more weight to the front end of you. It makes the push-up more difficult. And so if you're just starting out, I would say just do normal push-ups on the floor without barbells. And then once you've knocked out like where you can sit and do, let's say that your arms are at shoulder's length, that's a pretty easy push-up right there to start with. Your arms like lined up with your shoulders. If you can do like 100 of those in sets of 20, then you probably want to start moving on. If you can do that without like getting, pains in your arms or anything or maxing out, then I would recommend you get a barbell and you start going deep on a barbell without putting your feet up on anything. And so you can do that 100 times straight with like 20 sets with like 5 seconds, 10 seconds in between each set. Once you get done with that, start inclining your feet or putting your feet on the wall so that it adds more of your weight, and just keep working up from there. I usually curl 35s and 40s every day, 35-pound weights. It depends if I'm maxing out or not. If I'm trying to get like a really, really hard burn, I'll usually go for like 40-pound barbells, and I'll curl those with elbow on your knee just to go in to make sure that you get it deep right there. I'll usually do 50 of those on each arm if I'm maxing out. If it's a lighter day where I'm doing like 30-pound curls because I don't feel like maxing out, I just feel like doing like a slow burn workout, I actually don't keep count. I just put something on TV and I just sit there and I go until the arm hurts. Then I swap arms and I go until the arm hurts, and then I just do it until whatever I'm watching is over, or until like my arms are all like rubbery and don't want to work anymore. Other than that, I do a bunch of jumping jacks now. I just do random like calisthenic type workouts. I mean, honestly, most of the stuff I do is kind of like just like prison military workouts, I guess, where you just do a lot of jumping jacks, a lot of push-ups, a lot of curls, a lot of running. I mean, and that seems to work pretty well for me. How tall are you and how much do you weigh? This is getting personal. Let's see here. I weigh 133 right now, and I am 5'6.5" if I'm greedy. So there you go. He's asking where you should start. Like I said, you should start out small. Just get out and like walk a mile. It depends how, like, if you're really overweight, it's going to change the way that you want to start out. But if you know you want to start working out, just go do anything. Go for a 1 mile walk and call that a day. And at the point where you feel like a 1 mile walk is not enough, increase it a little bit, 1.5 miles, 2 miles. That's how I started out when I was really overweight. I was like 200 pounds, and I started out just running. Like, I would jog as long as I could, and then I would walk. And I had a route planned out that was like 3 miles, and I would run until I was burned out, and then I would walk for a little while. And then if my legs didn't hurt, I'd start running again, and then I'd stop, and then I'd keep walking, just keep motion, keep forward movement. And then it's also, if you're trying to actually lose weight, then I would say you have to look at your diet too. I mean, that's the other big part, but that's kind of like a whole different subject all to itself. But that's basically my workout routine right there. I just, various push-ups, jogging, various calisthenics, a lot of burpees, because burpees are great. Burpees are like fantastic. If you don't know what a burpee is, it's where you just like drop to the ground. They're called up downs sometimes too. It depends if you played football or not. They're called up downs. You just like, you drop to the ground on your stomach, and then you do a push up, and then you put your foot up and you stand up and you jump towards the ceiling, come back down, you lay back down on the floor, and you just do it over and over again. Those are really, really good for you, and they're great for working out. I mean, they're fantastic. But yeah, that's I mean, it seems like people answered your question right here, but that's what I do personally. That's what I do. I mean, I started working out because I noticed, like, when I was big, people made fun of me a lot, and I'm pretty sure it negatively affected like my career and stuff like that as well, because people would treat me like I was lazy or like slovenly or something, and that's not the case. I was as hard a worker as anybody else. But I don't know, people assign you, like, I don't know, when I was big, it seemed like people treated me a lot different. I don't know, and I didn't want to make it seem like I lost weight to like adhere to what they expected from me. I lost weight for me. That's the really most important thing, is if you're trying to train and you're trying to get better and stronger, do it for yourself first. Don't do it because people make fun of you or whatever. Don't do it because, you want to kick somebody's ass. Do it because you want to feel better about yourself, and because you know that you don't want to be big anymore. That's what it was for me. Like, I just kind of like woke up one day and I realized my gut hung over my belt, and I got tired when I would go up the stairs in my house, and I would, I always just felt out of shape, and I just got tired of people making fun of me and like ripping on me all the time for being husky. And so I started working out, and this is now 2 or 3 years later. I've lost like 70, 80 pounds. And believe me, I was the laziest bastard on earth. So if I can do it, you can do it. I know other people can for sure, because I lost that weight during my World of Warcraft period too. So even in between the most pertinent MMO addiction, I still managed to lose the weight. Believe me, there was nobody out there as lazy and as whiny as me when I first started out. So if I can do it, I know you can do it. Believe me, I believe in you. You can cut that weight if you want to, but don't do it for anybody else. Do it for you. That's the really important thing. Do it because you want to do it, not because that person's like, you're fat, you should lose weight. Like, that's some bullshit right there. Fuck that guy. Like, see, I don't normally swear on the channel, but seriously, that guy's a dick. Forget about him. Lose weight because you want to lose weight, not because that dude wants you to, or because, you're hoping that you'll be able to get that girl to go on a date with you. Those are all superficial reasons to, like, make your life better. Do it for the right reason. Do it, like, because you want to be that way, Let's see here. I think we're doing pretty well right now. I think that I've just about used up the Q&A section. So, if I didn't get your question, post it again this week. I'll go back through. I know there's a couple questions here that I didn't get, but I'm looking at my timer right now, and it's late at night, and so honestly, it's my day off, so I'm trying to like adhere to my day off and not work too much on the advice of family members. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. This is our weekly review. I hope that something I said in here will help you, because honestly, that's why I do these reviews. I don't get as much time to answer comments as I would like to, and so that's why I started this series, and that's also why I started streaming, is because it allows me to like talk to people face to face and like read your comments on camera and just sort of give you my insight. I don't think I'm, a wise person, but I don't know, I've been through a lot of stuff in life. Who hasn't? Everybody has their own personal experiences, and so I hope I can help shine a light on something for you. If I can help just one person with their day, that was always my goal on YouTube, was to help people, to make it so that somebody that's having a particularly bad day can get through their day. If I've done that for one person, then, I'm going to keep making videos. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So anyways, it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you all here. I did want to express that. It's a privilege to get to be a YouTuber. A lot of people want to do the job that I get to do every single day, and I feel very fortunate every day that I get to do it, and I am aware of the privilege that is afforded to me in getting to do this job every day. I don't take it for granted. I have worked shitty jobs, believe me, and so I am well aware how lucky I am to get to do this. And so I appreciate you all coming and listening to the things that I have to say. It's wonderful having an audience. I remember what it was like to get no views on a video, and I, 2 years later, now get thousands of views on a video. And so I feel very, very privileged. My heart feels very full every day that I get to do this and share my life with all of you and share, my thoughts and play video games and make you guys smile. And so I hope I get to continue to do it. Thank you for coming to Weekend Review. I'll see y'all later.